So I got another quiz for you. Which religion teaches that you need faith and works? Got to believe and act. So who says, "For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, not by works, so that no one can boast"? You know who said that? It's a lot earlier than Martin Luther. So it's the Apostle Paul. Was it last week I told you a little bit about the Habarim and the Amei Ha'aretz, the two different class structures within Jewish society? The Habarim were the upper class, the aristocracy, the educated, the wealthy, the well-fed. The Amei Ha'aretz were the poorer classes, the underclass, to a great extent. The untouchables, that's kind of what Paul is talking about here. The Habarim thought that the reason that Rome had conquered Israel was because of the poor people, the Amei Ha'aretz. Because it says that in Leviticus and Moses, that unless you follow my teachings, I will punish you, is what Moses said. So the aristocracy, the rabbis, looked at their books and says, okay, we're being punished. Why are we being punished? And we're being punished because of the poor people not being able to live up to the standards of the teachings. So the upper class, the aristocracy, thought that only if they lived good enough lives, then the Messiah would come. It was because of their fidelity that the Messiah would come. So what Paul is saying here is that no, it's not because of what you've done that the Messiah came. It's a gift. You've been saved through faith, not by works. You've been saved because of grace. So this is kind of what Paul says, that you are saved through faith, not by works, so that no one can boast. So who said, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling? You are saved by faith and not by works, but then it also says, work out your salvation. And that's also the Apostle Paul. So people that think that just because they say they believe, they get a free ticket, it's not what the Apostle Paul said. You need actions too. You've been saved through grace, not by works, so that no one can boast. But then again, you have to work out your salvation. Who said, I am he who searches the minds and hearts, and I will give to each one of you according to your works. According to what you do, you will be rewarded. Apostle Paul, what do you think? Or no? Oops. So that's the Apostle John in the book of Revelation. So you will be rewarded according to your works, is what John said. It's really not in conflict with anything that Paul said, just stated a different way.
What's exactly opposite of what Paul said?
Well, not if you view it in terms of what Paul said is, you got to believe, you got to have faith, but then you got to put your faith in action. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it has anything with, the theology was that no matter what you do, it's not good enough for God, because it's always imperfect. And so God requires perfection, but that doesn't mean that at the same time you can't keep trying. As I said, one step forward, two steps back. Two steps forward, one step back. So who said, many do not know that we are here in this world to live in harmony. Those who know this do not fight against each other. So this is another variation on the theme. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's Buddhist. And as you said, I don't know how much you have to read this in a book to know that it's true. So at a certain point, you just know what's right. You know, I guess I've always kind of thought that one of the purposes of religion is to teach you how to live your life in a way that other people can stand to be around you. Or stated a little bit differently, maybe a little bit higher, that the purpose of religion is to teach you how to live your life so that other people actually want to be around you. And that's kind of what it's all about. It's a personal salvation. It's a social, collective salvation. Who said, "You have heard that it has been said, you shall love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you." Do you think that's even practical?
Also, Jesus said,
Pretty close, yeah. I would be interested to hear this kind of thing stated in a political debate, to see how, American political debate, and how the other side would just rip them apart for even saying something like this.
Maybe what that means is that when you operate from the heart chakra, you have to maintain love for the rest of your enemy. It's very hard to do, but I mean, it's very, your neighbor is you hate them or you like them. And if you're balancing feeling from the heart, you can't, there's a scripture in the Old Testament where it says you can't have like bad water and good water, salt water, fresh water coexisting together. So in your heart, you can't have hate in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're trying to maintain love in your heart, you have no other choice but to love your enemy, even though your gut tells you, your lower chakras tell you something otherwise. You have to overcome the natural flesh nature to hate your enemy, and you have to overcome it with the spiritual nature that you will only have love in your heart.
Sure. Well, if you look at the wars the United States has fought over the last 100 years, who are our enemies? World War I, primarily Germany. They're now our best friends. World War II was Germany and Japan. They're now our best friends. Korea, South Korea is their best friends. As I said, I went and saw the play Hair in Niceville a couple nights ago. And much of the play Hair is a Vietnam protest. And on PBS radio a couple days ago, they were interviewing veterans who served in Vietnam. And one guy commented that Vietnam used to be our worst enemies, and now it's a tourism spot for Americans to go there and spend their vacation. The one speaker said that he intentionally wore a Van Heusen shirt to this meeting. Van Heusen shirts are now manufactured in Vietnam. So, what was interesting, he said, is the government that we fought when we were in Vietnam, 2 years after we left, the government fell. So the government didn't even exist 2 years after we were gone. So now we pretty much figured out in Vietnam that there's really no reason to fight them anymore. Driving home from the play from Hair 2 nights ago, my wife asked me, what was the purpose of the Vietnam War? What did we accomplish there? I don't know. Why is my son in Afghanistan right now? What's it going to be like in 20 years? Is it going to be tourism, or we're not really quite sure. So I don't know if anybody quoted that to somebody in this country, how well that would go over, because it's not a real popular
You know, Joel, a thing I
Philosophy.
think about when I think about this love your enemies,
Yeah.
I think about Christ when he was crucified, and he actually hung on the cross and prayed for those that physically put him on that cross.
Yeah.
And you think about what is the best thing that could happen as a result of his prayer is that they would realize the mistake they made.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come to realize that, the relationship between them and God and the relationship between him and them would be solved where there would be peace.
Yeah.
So to pray for that enemy is, sometimes we look at it a little bit differently, maybe for what he was looking at when he was on the cross.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can look at your own lives and say, you know, who are my enemies in my life right now? You know, the people that don't like me or that I don't get along with. Ultimately, are they like Germany and Japan and Vietnam, or, you know, farther on down the road, they're our friends. So I think what they're talking about is making friends out of enemies. Who said, to those who believe in work righteousness, for them shall be gardens of eternity. Your works.
Gardens of eternity. Muhammad.
There you go. So Muhammad lived in a desert culture where there was no vegetation. So the thing that he promised them that they would really appreciate would be a garden. And hadiths are, there are a couple of different levels to Islamic scriptures. One is the Quran, which is the recitation, which is dictated by Muhammad. Hadith is more like oral traditions. People later who came and said, this is what I heard him say. So the Gospels are actually more hadith than revelation. It's just people reporting what they heard, what was said, and reported what they saw that was done. So according to this tradition of Muhammad said, God does not accept belief if it is not expressed in deed, and does not accept deed if it does not conform to belief. So faith and works is what he's talking about. There are many of his followers who need to read this. So, Antichrist. This is the Apostle John, supposedly also the author of the book of Revelation. So this is what John said about the Antichrist. You have heard that the Antichrist is coming. Antichrist just means against Christ. You have heard that Antichrist is coming, and even now many Antichrists have come. They have already appeared. They went out from us, but they did not really belong to us. For if they had belonged to us, they would have remained with us. But their going showed that none of them belonged to us. But you have an anointing from the Holy One, and all of you know the truth. So what the Apostle John is saying here is that the Antichrist were people who claimed to be Christian, but were not following the Apostles' form of Christianity. They went out from us, but they were never actually part of us. So this is the Bible definition of Antichrist. It also says in another place that Antichrist is anyone who does not believe that Jesus was the Christ, or the Messiah, or the Anointed One, or the messenger. So there's actually nothing in the book of Revelation about the Antichrist, so I don't know where that idea comes from. So Jesus said, many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not in thy name done many wonderful works? And I will profess to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So Jesus is talking about his followers, and he said that, have we not in your name done many wonderful things? And something about them or something about what they did makes him say, no, that's not it. I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity. So, according to this, salvation is not a free ticket. The essence of faith is fewness of words and abundance of deeds. Got about 4 minutes left. That's Baha'u'llah. Baha'u'llah lived in Israel about 150 years ago. Mhm. If a man speaks many holy words but does not live according to these words, this thoughtless man cannot enjoy a life of holiness. A Buddha again. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil, if it be possible, as such as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. That's the Apostle Paul again. Live the kind of life where other people can stand to be around you. Well, that kind of sums it all up. Any thoughts on faith and works?
It's a complex subject,
It's a path. It's a journey. You don't always succeed. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, but you stay on the path, you keep trying. So that's kind of the purpose of this entire class, is to get you to re-examine things in your own life and to think, what could I have done better? If you need to atone with someone else or to reconcile with someone else, then go ahead and do that. Believe good works, but don't be a jerk. And that's pretty much my understanding what the game